This is why I moved to Jamaica. My reasons for moving to Jamaica may shock you. I'm sure it's going to shock you. There's this stereotype attached to Cubans and their reason for migrating to other countries. If you're new here, hi, my name is Flor Jordanka. Hi. I am Cuban and I live in Jamaica for 21 years. And I'm sure you want to know what prompted me to make the decision to pack up my bags and move to the beautiful Caribbean island of Jamaica. Paradise on earth, as I like to call it. Well, I'm gonna start by telling you a story. I used to have a clothing store in 7th Avenue Plaza. It was called Jordu. I don't know if any of you came across that clothing store. It was, all modesty aside, I consider that we were ahead of our time when we came up with that clothing store idea, because not only did we sell clothes, the design, the interior design of the store, all done by moi, was incredible. All modesty aside again. And we had a concept that on the weekends we kept unplugged concerts in the store. So I had Tanya Stevens, I had Queen Africa, I had Tisanchin, I had Itana, and many more, Laden, many more, pass through the store and give an unplugged one-on-one concert with their fans inside the clothing store. And we kept fashion shows and games, and we even kept singing contests. It was incredible. So at that time, I had a partnership with On Stage. And the beautiful Camila McDonald was the host that they had at the time, and I used to clothe her. So one time, I think it was Valentine's, On Stage shoot inside of the clothing store, right there in 7th Avenue Plaza. And Camila asked me the question. So Jordi, she called me Jordi. So Jordi, why did you move to Jamaica? Hear me now, no? Because I'm on. That was my answer. That was my answer on national television to the beautiful Camila McDonald. And that made a huge impact in the population. There were so many messages, there were so many comments on Facebook, on the clothing store page, on my personal page. It was, I won't say, I think that was my first encounter on how important it is to keep certain jokes to yourself or in your close circle, because mm-mm, that did not do well at all. Yes, I moved to Jamaica because I'm man. It sounds simple if you put it that way, and I'm sure Vibes Cartel wife can relate to me. But it is way more than that. And I am very excited about this video because I get this question all the time and I never get the platform that is wide enough, that give me the opportunity to explain to details what that entail. So let's just, all jokes aside, let's just go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the beginning and the real reason why I moved to Jamaica. And yes, there is a man involved, my husband. We've been together for 22 years and we have been married for 21. And our story is very different. And we're not going to be talking about how we got married and how our relationship went and all of that. That is a subject for another video. So make sure to stay tuned. So we got married. We were very young. I was still 19 years old and he was already 20 years old. Yes, I am 41. I know a lot of you don't believe me. I know a lot of you feel like I'm lying about my age, but it is what it is. 41, it is what it is. You know, I'm an 80s baby. I have little, I'm sure you can see little wrinkles over here. So it is what it is. All woman, all food. My husband was studying in Cuba and something happened that he has to go back to Jamaica. Back then, we were not married yet. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend. And I have not been ever a fan of long distance relationship, and I was really in love with him. Bear in mind we only know each other for a year, and the only way that I could leave Cuba. Yeah, hold on, my baby just he needs to drink some of my water. Hold on. You finished now? It's hot. It's hot water. I drink hot water. At a very young age, I learned that it takes a special type of people to be able to endure what long distance relationship require, and I really don't have that in me. So when I am with somebody and I'm committed to that person, I am going to follow them to the ends of the earth, no matter where they're going. My story as of why I left Cuba is different from many of those Cubans that have left Cuba. Unlike majority of Cubans, I never had the intention of leaving Cuba. I grew up in a household where my grandfather lived in the United States and my auntie migrated to the United States with him. However, my grandmother, my mom's mom, and my mom never had any intention of leaving Cuba, especially not to go to the United States. So I grew up enjoying my life in Cuba, making the best of it. Um, I have so many fond memories of the 20 years of my life that I live in Cuba, how worry free I was, how stress free I was. I felt really free because I didn't have back in Cuba many of the burdens that I have right now living in a democratic world. I didn't know anything about Jamaica. I had little to no knowledge about Jamaica. Maybe I knew a few songs from Bob Marley. I had no idea how Jamaica look. I had no idea how Jamaican people look. I knew nothing about Jamaica until I met my husband. Then I started knowing a little bit more. Back then there was no internet, so it was my knowledge of Jamaica was very limited. So I had no intentions of leaving Cuba to go anywhere else in the world. I was a dancer, and as a dancer you do get the opportunity to travel to other countries to perform and so on. So my intention was maybe to travel as a dancer, but always return to Cuba. In Cuba, let me tell you, you see, when you're watching television in Cuba, back then, remember, I haven't been to Cuba in 10 years, and I left Cuba in the year 2003. So the Cuba that I am talking to you about is a Cuba of 21 years ago and a Cuba of 10 years ago when it's the last time that I went there. When you watch television in Cuba and they're showing and portraying another country, they alter the colors of the videos. So everywhere else that is not Cuba is going to look dark, gloomy, gray. So the idea that we have of other countries is like this very industrial place with big cities and everything is just gloomy and gray. I have always been a nature lover, and the mere thought of going somewhere like that, I was not attracted to it at all. Like I'm like, no, me going to the United States, no sir. Me going to any other country, no, 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 no. I need my bush, I need my nature, I need my country lifestyle, my small village lifestyle. So I had zero intentions of migrating to another country. But along came the Jamaican man that took my heart and just tie it up. And he was leaving, he had to leave to Jamaica, and I had to make that decision. It was a very, I didn't have to put much thought into it. Um, it was, I had a very short period of time to make up my mind and decide that yes, I am going to follow you, go to Jamaica. Like it was a no-brainer. Like I knew from the moment I met him that this was the man I was going to do everything that was in my power to spend the rest of my life with. And let me tell you, it is a journey that I would love to share with you on what it takes to maintain a 22 years relationship, a relationship that started when we were barely kids, a relationship that stood the challenge of different languages, different cultures, different backgrounds, different ambitions, and different goals in life. But yet we're still here. 22 years later, three children later, and them over there somewhere. Three three boys later, we are still here. I would love to share that journey with you. Anyways, so going back to Cuba now, he said, if you want to have a relationship, we have to relate. You can this and me over yes. And bear in mind, I didn't even have a phone in my house. I will have to go to the public phone in the community. You know them phone that I go and sit down and wait for his call. The most thing that he could do is send an email to the community computer in the internet cafe, and then somebody will get me the email to say, hey, your man sent you an email saying my call, at this time. So I will go and sit there. And some of the time I won't even get the call because if somebody else is on the phone, there was not even a waiting beep, 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 beep to say, hey, somebody is calling. So somebody will come in and stay 1 whole hour on the phone, and he will be in Jamaica. Like when he went to Jamaica for holidays, he will be in Jamaica calling me, and I won't be able to talk to him because there is somebody sitting on the phone, holding up the phone, and I won't get the call. And then it's just to go to my yard, go sit down, and wait for another email. So this is how my summer before we got married went. Me thinking, okay, this is going to be a very challenging long distance relationship. He was a student, he was young, he didn't have the finances back then, he didn't have anything. I had money because I was already working, so I had a little money saved and so on, but it wasn't up to the extent where I could say, oh, I can travel freely, because that was not the case in Cuba. And that is one of the reasons why we had to get married. For me to be able to leave Cuba, we had to get married. When he presented this to me, if we want to stay in a relationship, we have to relate and you have to come with me. I It was a no-burner. I was like, yes, we have to do this. And we had to go through hell and come back to get married. And as I said, that is another story. We finally got married. I finally got all the permits and permissions and release forms that I had to get from the Cuban government to be able to fly to Jamaica. As just turned 20 years old, I hop in a plane, and it was my very first time going in an airplane. It was Air Jamaica back then. Everything was in English, and I was terrified because I said, Lord Jesus, if anything is to happen in this plane here, me don't know what to do, because me didn't understand a word of what these people they must say about safety and this and that and vest and whatever it is. We landed in Montego Bay, and then from Montego Bay we took off right away going to Kingston. I landed in Kingston, and they won't let me out. I was there in the airport, waiting until they called me into a room. There was a gentleman that spoke Spanish, and he said to me, "What is your profession?" And I said, "I'm a dancer." And they're like, because unfortunately, I didn't know this, but unfortunately, in Jamaica at that time, if you told anybody that you were a dancer, the first thing that come to mind is you is a gogo. You understand what I say? And then he asked me, "Who are you coming here to?" And I said to my husband, I am saying to you, I exaggerate. So you're a dancer. You're a dancer. You coming to your husband. It was literally this reaction was the reaction. And they're like, okay. So he went to a higher supervisor and say, you know, she explained to her. Me couldn't even understand what he must say. And the lady was like, well, let's see about that. So she goes into the speaker and call out my husband's name. And there was a window. This was airport back in the year 2003. Like the airport was a completely different place. It was like a glass window, and oh my god. And he came up to the window, like he came to the window like this. And when I saw him, I haven't seen him in a month. Okay, 1 whole month I don't see him, exactly a month since I don't see him. And I just saw him and he saw me and he was like, hola. Like I couldn't hear him, but I know that he said hola. And I mean, I'm seeing his face, like his teenager face. Like he's a 41-year-old man now, a 41-year-old bald man now. But I'm seeing his teenage face right in front of me saying hola. And I just replied back to him, hola. And the lady, the supervisor that went to call him, she was like sideways like this, right? She was like this. So I was here. My husband was here on the other side of the glass, and she was looking at him, and then she looked like this, and she said, "Yeah, that's her husband. Let her go." It's like she said, "Yo, this is like I have never seen such love spark in my life through this glass ear. So release her immediately. Do not hold her another second." So I just got my little bag and went over there, and my mother-in-law was in the car waiting for me. And I sat in the back of the car with him, and we just hug and kiss, and I was so happy. My heart was just so full of joy. All the stress, all the sleepless nights, all the anxiety, all the desires, all the dreams that I had of being with him finally come to fruition, and I could you know, just be with him and be happy. That was, however, the beginning of another struggle, which is for another video, because my first years in Jamaica were very difficult in many different ways. I had many challenges. I couldn't speak the language. I didn't know anybody here other than my husband. I had a lot of issues being accepted by his family. It was, they were challenging on finding work, a lot of things. So that is a struggle for another video. And Ura, let me know in the comments if you don't want to hear that my struggles when I moved to Jamaica as a Cuban story. And I will be more than happy to tell you. One of the things that people also ask me is if I was afraid and if I missed Cuba. So get ready, buckle up. We're going there now. Some more hot water. Back in those days in Cuba, there was a big stigma for girls who marry or go or have boyfriends from other countries. Unfortunately, in Cuba, there is a lot of these girls that have relationships with foreigners. They don't have like a rate or anything like that. Let's just say that it is more of a gold digger type of culture. Nonetheless, it is from frowned upon. You're being looked down on. So my family did have a little issue of me having a relationship with a man from another country because they assume and thought that the community will judge me and put me in that box of girls who are with foreigners for money. And this was not the case. I fell in love with my husband the second I saw him. When I saw him, I just fell in love with him, and I knew that this was the man I was going to spend the rest of my life with. So there was also the issue of girls going to other countries, and when they get there, they were used and they were exploited. And there was a lot of horror stories of girls going to other countries, and when they get there, the boyfriend or the some of them will fall in love with this man, and when they get there, they just thrown on a gogo club or in a massage parlor or whatever it is and just exploded. So having the father that I have, he said to me, "Listen, here is this money." He had traveled. He had spent some time in Argentina working in a work contract as a box trainer for the Cuban team, and um, he had some money saved, and my mom had some money saved as well. So I utilized my money for the ticket and all of that, but my parents put money together and give me, and I had it hid in somewhere. And they said to me, if things don't go the way that you plan them to go, utilize this money, go to the airport, and you hope on the next plane. I am the only child. My parents are very protective of me, and they also raised me to be a little bit street smart. So I was prepared. I had a backup plan if this was all a lie, if this was all an act, because bear in mind, me don't know this man family, me don't know this man background. All I know of him is what him tell me. So any and anything could have happened, right? So I had my little money put down. If anything was a lie, if anything was not like we supposed to, then I had a backup plan. My God told me I didn't need that money, none at all, but nonetheless, I put the money in a bank account. And then little by little give it back to my parents when I got the chance, because sending money to Cuba is very difficult. So especially back then. Was I scared? Did I fear for my life or my future at any time? No, because this was my husband. This was my love. I was in love with him, and at no point did I felt shaky or anything like that. So I at no point in time did I feel any fear or any insecurity or any anxiety towards my safety once I moved to Jamaica. The other question is if I miss home. And let me tell you, sometimes I feel bad because I did not miss Cuba one day at all. I was on my own since I was 15, so I was very independent, and my mom always grew me to be independent. I was so happy to be with the love of my life, to be together with him. I was so immersed on trying to become a part of this new culture, this new country, this new family. And my main focus was always that. I wanted to go back to Cuba the first year. Like I had that, we call it in Spanish, gorrión, where you just have this journey for going back to your roots and going back to your family. But it wasn't a situation where I will go to bed and cry and be like, oh my God, I miss her, because I will speak to my mom every now and then. I remember back then it used to be 45 Jamaican dollars for $1, and that was the exact amount per minute to call Cuba. 45 Jamaican dollars, $1 per minute. Today is still $1 and change per minute to call Cuba. Thank God for WhatsApp. I used to call her, call my mom, call my grandmother, call my father. So I stay in touch with everybody. But my main focus was always that, to be with my husband, to try to immerse myself in the culture, to immerse myself in the family, and just be a part of this new society and this new culture that I was dropped in by love, through love. So when it comes to everything else, I did not miss the food, I did not miss the fruits, I did not miss nothing like that. The only thing that I miss, it will be the peace of mind, because back in the early 2000s, if you think that Jamaica rough now when it comes to violence and them thing there, back in the early 2000s, trust me, it was way worse than it is now. The beach sure made up for everything that I could be missing, because in Cuba I could only go to the beach once a year when it was summer, and in Jamaica, beach just dash away. I will live in the water. Like I will stay in the beach until nighttime come, because I never got that opportunity when I was in Cuba. Yeah, my story is a little bit different. I'm such a weirdo. Why is it that I can't say, oh, I hate communism and I'm just going left Cuba because I couldn't manage and I was too poor and hungry and that's why I me left? Like, you know what I'm saying? Would I ever left Cuba if I have never met my husband? Hmm. Maybe I would have left Cuba, but it probably would have still been the same reasons, or maybe because of work or love, but not because I was very unhappy with my lifestyle, that I was very unhappy with the life that I was living, and that I had this desire of better life for myself, and that's why I left Cuba. Like that was never in my mind, and that was never an issue. I didn't know any better when I was in Cuba. So that's why I'm thinking like if I get a contract as a dancer to travel, go somewhere and I see it differently, I may have changed my opinion and probably would have decided to stay. But then again, it was not a desire of a better life or an ambition of having more money and having more things. I was so happy with the life that I had in Cuba. Um, and I made a video saying that I would prefer sometimes to go back, but a good friend of mine, a social media friend, um, said, remember, the Cuba that you left 21 years ago is not the same Cuba that is there now. And it's true. Because let me tell you, all my friends have migrated. I think I have two friends left in Cuba. Three. I think I have three friends. You know, I won't say friends. I think I have three people that I went to school with left in Cuba. Everybody else has gone. Even people younger than my generation have left Cuba. So it will be like the really old people like wear my t-shirts and like really old people from the community that have not passed away. Those are the people that will be in Cuba. I really hope that this video give you a good understanding as of why I left Cuba. I am sure there are many other Cubans out there like me who never had an intention of leaving Cuba for economical, political reasons and are now living in another country. And if you know any of them, make sure to tag them on this video and let them watch my video. Hopefully, they can speak English and understand. I still speak Spanish, by the way, but my community is a Jamaican community, which I'm very thankful for and so honored that to have in my heart. So, again, I left Cuba because I'm man. I mean, I changed that. Thank you so much for watching. Mucho love.